Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode here of the Lonely Risk Podcast. I am your host, as always, of course, Blake Ray. And now this is a very special day because we have had a ton of watch brands come on here. And this is a new type of guest for us. But today's guest is not only a watch brand, but they are an epic jewelry brand. She herself, the CEO, grew up around one of the most recognizable names in Swiss luxury, Philippe Charriol, and now she is leading the brand to the next chapter. As I'm sure you know right now, I am sitting down with Coralie Charriol, who has an iconic jewelry collection inspired by Celtic designs with the unmistakable cable motif that I am wearing now. And I am thrilled to have her on the episode. Welcome, please, another friend of the show, Coralie Charriol. Welcome.
Hi, Blake.
Good to see you, as always.
Good to see you, even virtually.
Yeah.
Opposite ends of the world.
Yeah, no, I mean, it seems like just a couple of weeks ago we were hanging out, but I know it was longer than that, but
yeah, June seems a little far away now, but
I know, but it seems like it was just yesterday. I mean, we got to spend some good time together. I got to do some filming with you, another interview with you, and we're working on stuff together, which is awesome.
I'm so glad, and we're kind of building our relationship over the years, which is wonderful.
Yeah. I tried to come find you at Watches and Wonders. Unfortunately, that was a fail on my side, so missed you by a day.
You'll come. Hopefully, you'll come this year in April. Again.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I still have some more interviews to film, so I don't know. We'll see. I just got to clear it through leadership team over here. You know, the wife. So,
yeah, and we just re-signed our contracts, and they're adding, I don't know, like a bunch more brands. So there's going to be a few new ones as well. I'm not allowed to say.
Are you going to be in the same?
You'll be very excited.
Are you going to be in the same kind of like spot over there? Like, are you going to find yourself?
No, there's a little bit of movement. There's a little bit of movement.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah, I mean, you had a nice little showcase there. It was really, really awesome because I took my friend Sophie, from Sophie's Watch World. She's also a friend of the pod. Took her in and kind of was like, hey, like, this is my friend's brand. Like, she does awesome stuff. Like, you do awesome stuff. Like, awesome meets awesome.
Oh, no, we've been texting, and we really need to see each other because we don't live far from each other. So I really have to connect with her. She's a riot.
I know, she's so eccentric. So like it was funny because like whenever you come here, like we're all on different little like press like circuits, right? So she was doing her own thing and I was doing my own thing. But then once we connected, like we didn't separate. Like from like breakfast to like dinner, we were just like hanging out the entire time, like until she took the train back to like, because she lives outside of Geneva.
Yeah.
But no, like the entire time. And so like I was sitting in on her meetings. She was sitting on my meetings, and the brands loved it. They're like, oh, we get two like press outlets in one meeting, which is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small community and it's pretty tight, I think. And it's quite lovely, especially when you get all the Americans to come over to Switzerland and spend some time with us. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Not a lot of women though. So it's nice to have Sophie.
Yeah, I know. We talked a lot about that. It's a very male dominated industry. We need to figure out how we can change. At least I need to figure out how I can change. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you're working on it too already.
But this is the first step. This is a good first step.
Yeah, no, I want to let everybody know, first of all, how we got connected, because it's a very, I think, interesting story. You were here in Vegas 2 years ago, and I was walking through, like, it's a jewelry show here that comes once a year. And there's not too many watch brands, but me and myself, of course, I'm stumbling around trying to find all the watches I can. And then like, I think you guys were placed like right. I don't know if you were placed by the exit there or like the entry door that time. I think you guys were tucked away in a different, and like in the center of the showcase. But I mean, it's like a labyrinth, right? So somehow, some way, I literally turn around and I see watches in the corner. And, I don't have a really high expectation for quality watches at a jewelry show. And because there's a lot of fashion brands there, right? There's a lot of fashion brands, and that can
Not
be a
so
bit.
much, not so much there though. The
Okay.
fashion.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to jewelry or fashion. So leave that how it be. But anyways, I turn around and I see a showcase of watches. And then I look down and I'm like, these are really cool. Like these are really, really, and I have a really high tolerance for like quality watches because, I sold like some of the highest end watches in the world. And I immediately got hands on, and I was just so impressed with the products that your watch products, like and I just was like, man, there's something here. So,
Yeah.
and then little did I know you were the one showing me them. I had no idea that you were the CEO.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then next thing you know, like we're just staying in touch, and I think
I'm so glad.
everybody.
No, I'm so glad. I mean, first of all, like, it hit you like,
It was.
impactfully, as visually, like it grabbed your attention, which is kind of great for us. And I'm happy to hear that because it's true. It's very unique. It has a very distinct look. And that cable that you're wearing the bracelet part of it, but that cable material is stainless steel that we make in Switzerland, you know. Is really our DNA, and it's almost on all the watch bands, whether for female or male. It's on all the jewelry as well. So for me, that's like yay, the product spoke for itself, and then it stopped you in your tracks. You looked at it, and I was like, okay, that's great. And then they asked the question, what is this? What's this brand? Who is this? And then you get to tell your story. So for me, oof, that the product spoke for itself.
It really did. I'm still impressed. I like I said, I'm not saying that as far as I'm aware. I'm not being paid to say this, right? This is
No.
not. This is and just something that kind of like I guess makes like next level for me is just seeing the passion. Like I mean, you were there. I mean, Jillian is an amazingly passionate
Yeah.
person for the brand. I mean, just hearing the story. And then now, before our podcast, of course, I did a bunch of research, and I
Mhm.
learned about your father, and I learned
Yeah,
about his like eccentric ways,
very.
and leaving Cartier, and it made me a little bit more passionate, and
Yeah, I mean,
oh,
I can say a little bit the background. You
yeah,
want to
please,
background?
yeah, and
Um,
go ahead.
so Philippe Charriol, a Frenchman based in Aix-en-Provence, which is in the south of France. He worked for Cartier for 15 years, and at 40, he decided, I've had enough. I'm gonna try and launch my own brand, and that was 1983. And it took him 2-3 years to set up. He moved back to Switzerland. He was living in Hong Kong as president of Cartier Hong Kong. He moved back to Switzerland, but he always kept two offices, Geneva and Hong Kong, because Hong Kong was all the markets that he had worked for Cartier, and Geneva because he was making Swiss watches. He knew that he needed a special material, something that was going to really stand out, and it was the stainless steel cable material, which we have been making in the same factory for over 40 years. We have a 27 artisanal step process. And believe it or not, we have some of the machines that are still there from 40 years ago. And of course, new machines with new technology to create our very identifiable, unique, flexible, hypoallergenic cable bands. So he knew he needed this special material, and he also knew that women, were the segment that was not really thought about, like in the sense that he was kind of a pioneer to thinking of them as a self purchaser. And not like turning to the husband or the boyfriend of like, should I buy this watch, or what do you think about this brand? And he and this is like 40 years ago, and we're still doing that today, like trying to
Yeah,
encourage
yeah, yeah.
women to be independent and choosing their watches all by themselves. And that's also my message. But he did it 40 years ago when he introduced male and female watches together at the same time.
Mm.
Um, And from there, he realized also that the material he was using could be used for jewelry. Like you would just remove the head of the watch, and then you would have the bracelet. And he's like, oh my God, that's going to be like beautiful as well. So he introduced watches, and then jewelry came right after. And then, of course, all the retailers, they were like, oh, that you're taking up too much space. You're asking for too much space. And watch retailers weren't used to having jewelry. So then he was like, oh, okay, I'm going to do monobrand boutiques. Again, pioneer on that in the early 90s. And once you open a boutique, though, you need to fill it. So he was like, okay, maybe I'll add some, belts and cufflinks and pens and money clips, all using the cable material. And from there came a licensee for eyewear, and then handbags, and then finally perfume. So what Dad created in 40 years, I'm kind of, I'm squeezing it into a very short explanation, but
Sure.
is that he created a lifestyle. And his persona was the life. I mean, he would have been like number one influencer of the world. Okay, like had social media been, back then, happening, because the guy was unbelievable. Like he raced cars. I mean, that was his passion. He was a gentleman driver. They call it now amateur drivers. There's like a photo of some cars behind me, but he had people coming to him asking to be sponsored. And when he understood that these were amateurs, and he could drive himself, he sponsored his own car and then races. So he lived the life that he was trying to embody into his brand as well, which was always l'art de vivre la différence, the art of living differently, which I took when I took over, and I shortened it and made it a little bit more punchy. It's called Live Different. So it's all about, being unique, standing out, like, kind of living your dream. So he kind of lived his dream. A lot of these brands, they sponsor like vintage cars, which is beautiful, but he drove, Lamborghinis,
Yeah.
GT3s, and GT2s, you know what I mean? Like Venturi cars, Porsches, and things like that. He had so many trophies. I cannot even tell you, but he infused his passion into, the watches and the brand that he embodied. So it was he's a very big, he was a very big personality. So his shadow was very big.
I
um,
I was
yeah.
joking with Jillian. Sorry, I was joking with Jillian, like that, like as as I was texting her this morning, saying like, "Hey, cool, looking forward to seeing Coralie," and I got that like very eccentric thrill seeker vibe, almost like a Richard Branson type
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
character, like just really out to enjoy all that life has to offer at just doing whatever he can. And then, of course, I read about, the Lamborghini series that you guys sponsored, and then you had some super bikes
Super
ambassadors,
sports.
and
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then I mean, you guys were even a part of one time, like here, a sponsor of the Phoenix Suns NBA basketball team,
Yeah, we did.
which
We
which
did.
I,
We did.
which I read,
My
and I was
father
like, okay,
loved to sponsor. I mean, today, the sportsman or sportswoman is very loved right now, right? But back then, you're still looking at actors and actresses, but they were very expensive even back then. So Dad was already looking, to use sportswomen and sportsmen as their kind of ambassador of the brand, friend of the brand, and that's why you see a lot of that. But um, anyway, so he for me was an incredible mentor. I came in right after college. I went to college in the States at Tufts University. I had learned, I was all about literature and art history. And then I graduated, and I was like, what am I going to do with that? And then my father was like, okay, just, come work on the PR of this new watch that we're launching in 2000. And it was called the Megève watch. Megève is a beautiful French Alps resort, ski resort, in the French Alps, Megève. And it's about 45 minutes from Geneva. You can ski, you can go in the summer. And there's the Alp, mountain range, and in the middle is the Mont Blanc. Anyway, he created this conceptual watch, manchette, for ladies only, called the Megève, and he hired me to do the PR and the communications. But I mean, I was 21, didn't know much.
Sure. Yeah.
And I came in, I was part of the team. We did this huge event. It was fantastic. And then once my foot was in the door, it was very hard to leave. So from there, I did, PR communications, a bit of marketing. I was the face of the brand a little bit. And then I was a sales rep based in America. So I was living in New York, and I was a sales rep for the Caribbean and the Central America. And then because he had made me learn Japanese in high school, he sent me to Japan all the time, which was where I sat behind counters and sold the product, shook a lot of hands, took a lot of photos. But I got all the feedback from the end consumers. So I had the wealth of knowledge because I was on the market, really spending time at the point of sales. And so when I came back to the office, I was working with the designers. I was like, no, they don't like this. They like this. This is too small. This is too big. This is the color. So which was kind of fantastic. And that's how I got into the products. I kind of like took the handbags and did it myself. At one point, I had my own brand at QVC for like 2 minutes. Very tough. And then I moved from handbags to jewelry. I did jewelry 15 years. And then in 2019, my dear father passed away suddenly. And I came back to Geneva, and I came in as acting CEO and then finally full CEO. So I've been full CEO for, 6 years. And still creative director because I feel like I'm the best person to carry on the legacy, but also now I feel like the moment is kind of the great because we have a focus on women, and I feel like right now everybody's trying to also refocus on women, but we've been focused on women for a long time. And I always say I design for women first, and then I think about the gentleman. Versus in the industry, it's all the reverse.
Sure, other way, yeah.
Yeah, and I often say I fight for my seat at the table because it's a table full of men, and just because I design and make 80% women's watches doesn't mean I'm not a watchmaker. Just because the watch is, not super complicated. We have, GMT movements, automatic movements. We have skeleton movements, quartz movements. Just because I don't make like the most complicated one that's $300,000 doesn't mean I'm not authentic and real. Like
Sure.
25 years in the industry.
Yeah. Well, no, you have that's what attracted me, I think, because you have watches that are built with purpose, which is what I tend to attract myself to, like watches that have functionality over just being beautiful. Like, if you look at some of the watch brands now, they've kind of transcended their own identity where they were making tool watches and now they're like luxury status symbols and all this. And, the functionality kind of falls to the side. But that's what stuck out to me. Like, you make watches for that purpose, right? I mean, you have an entire collection of surf watches, like divers watches that are functionally designed.
Yeah, that's my
you're
passion.
A surfer. Yeah. But no, it's kind of cool because after I spent maybe like a couple hours like watching videos and reading about your dad and then reading about the brand. I mean, I do a lot of homework before I come on and just seeing, the cool thing is, first of all, it sucks I didn't get a chance to meet your father. So I was thinking that in my head.
You would have loved him.
Yeah. And then something that was like really kind of cool was just seeing like, you have so much of your father's personality like instilled in you still, which is just so, I just realized that, right? Like after reading, super curious, but
I'm also like, I love what I do. So I have that passion.
Yeah. I'm sure probably when you got into the company, you didn't probably realize that you would take over. Did you realize when you got in?
No.
You didn't? It just kind of manifested itself?
I think the universe kind of manifested it, which was kind of weird because I was 41 when dad died, and it's almost to the date when he left Cartier and launched it. And so I was that's the silver lining, that like I wasn't too young. I had already been married, had the kids, did 20 years of the company already, had all the jobs. And then, he left, I mean, I'm sad he left, but
Of
if there was
course.
any other time, that was a good time, you know what I mean? So I felt
Yeah.
I was ready.
What would you
I was
say
ready,
is one of
even though, I mean, we survived. We had to go through COVID, right?
yeah.
And I had to fill his shoes. So
Yeah, I'm sure those are big shoes to fill.
yeah, big shoes. Yeah.
What would you say is one of the biggest lessons that your father passed down to you, maybe about leadership or creativity and the luxury product world?
I mean, my father, nothing was handed to him. He was really a self-made man. No one gave him a dollar. He was, I call him a bit of a magician. It was the early 80s. So there was some magic in the water, I think, because there's a lot of creatives that launched their brands at that time. But my father
Yeah.
was not somebody who would handhold anyone. He was a man that liked when people took initiative. So if I said, I think that, we need to do this on the Japanese market, he's like, okay, go ahead, you do it. I was like, "Really?" He's
Wow.
like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, come back with the solutions." You know what I mean? Like, that was him. I remember at one point, like, all my designs for the jewelry was like taking off, and they were doing really, really well. And I was like, "Dad, can I get a percentage of the sales of my jewelry because they're doing great?" I mean,
Naturally.
I was an employee with an employee salary, and I wanted a little extra. And he was like, "Okay, so if they do well, I give you a little extra, but if they fail, are you going to pay me?" And I was like, no. I was like, okay, well, maybe not. You know what I mean? Like, that was the
Yeah.
kind of guy, I mean, and he really threw me into the deep end, and he was like, swim, you know. Um, that was it. I mean, like I had to stand up. I was 21 years old. I was standing up doing sales presentation and sales training in front of like audiences, in Panama, in Japan, in wherever he sent me, Taiwan. Um, I had to just figure it out on my own. Like when he said, "Okay, you take care of the handbags for Charriol," like I remember going to the leather factory in Bologna, not knowing at all which leather to use for a handbag. I didn't
Sure.
realize there was leather for car interiors, furniture, shoes, watch, and handbags. I was like, "Oh, yeah." So all of that, then, little by little, also like the jewelry, like going to the factories, sitting in, having the meetings, going to the trade shows, and working on all the samples and things like that. So really hands on, but somewhere that was kind of my training by him, but he didn't hold my hand.
That's the best
So
type of parent, one that lets you kind of flap your wings and lets you learn through life experience. I mean, that's the best teacher, in my opinion. My dad was very much the same, just kind of like throw me out into the water with no floaties.
oh
So
yeah. Oh yeah. And like for example, dad needed a partner on his ice racing. Dad used to race cars on ice. Okay. It's used
yeah,
to
I
called
read that. Crazy.
Trophée en Brosse. Okay. It was in France. It was about 8 races in the season. And basically it's at the very high altitudes, like the ski resorts that have very, very high altitudes. They create a track. They pour the water, it freezes overnight, and then all the cars are kind of prototype cars. All the wheels have nails in them, and all wheels are four-wheel directional. So I mean, like it's pretty crazy. Anyway, he needed a co-pilot. I had done it maybe twice, and he was like, "You need to come because I can't find anyone else." I was like,
Oh,
"Okay." And then the only thing he would tell me was like, "Just don't crash the car because you didn't drive at the same time. It was one after the other, not together." Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he would race his 4, 5, 6 tracks, and then I would race, and then he would race. So you did it like that. And he just like, just don't crash.
Very, very, very low barrier of entry,
I
right?
mean,
Hopefully.
that's it. Yeah.
Um, I'm always curious, especially when I talk to like brand leaders such as yourself, like, obviously you're trying to look into the future while kind of preserving the past. So the question then becomes like, how do you, balance honoring the heritage of the brand while pushing into like a new creative direction?
Absolutely. For me, what's amazing with Charriol is that we have this fundamental tools, or les codes, as we say, les codes de Charriol, the codes of the brand, which is what Dad created. What is the foundation? Certain looks, certain screws, certain lugs, certain clasps, and of course the cable material that we've been using for 40 years. So it's almost like I have the outline, and then
Mm,
inside I kind of do whatever I want. But as long as I have all the codes and the key material, I can do whatever I want. um, but I have gone into the past, where we had like 3 lines of watches, and from those 3 lines I took like the best, details that were very Charriol, and then I infused it into the Navigator collection, which you saw, which I launched now almost 3 years ago. So for me, that was kind of like my first blend of the past and all the foundation infused into my version of what Charriol is going to look like for the future. This Navigator collection, which splits into cruise, GMT, and surf. So for me, I felt very proud of that moment, that I had all the past, and then and pushed it into the future. But yes, that is the balance that I think about all the time for every watch product I create, even for some of the jewelry. There are some classics that just are incredible. They are like the legends of Charriol. I mean, like, I know not everybody can see on the podcast, but I mean, this is our legendary Saint-Tropez watch. This is the iconic 130, with the Charriol with the cable and the little chain next to it. But this is the one
beautiful.
I did this year for Watches and Wonders. So
Beautiful.
I'm always there's always a baseline, and I constantly evolve and animate and transform, but there's always les codes de Charriol, and our cable is there.
Amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm also curious too because obviously you're now leading the company, but you're also the creative director. And I think most people don't really think about this, but I mean, we were just talking about before we started recording, we were talking about Watches and Wonders, Geneva Watch Days, like all these watch shows. Um, and then if you look at fashion, right? Like every single year there's a new collection, right? So do you feel like there's like a constant like pressure to have some type of like new product or and then if yeah,
Absolutely.
always is it?
Always. I'll tell you why. It starts with you guys who are the press. You're like,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
Coralie, what's new? What's new? What's new? What's new? What's new? I was like,
I
it's
don't
like,
think I've
hold
ever
on.
said that, but
We just showed, we just manufactured and we're barely shipping, like, what's new? Hold on.
yeah,
What people don't realize, it's like a year to 2 years to get from design to, market, on these products. I mean, these are like, you know, and I don't do very, very complicated movements. So imagine the ones that are super complicated,
right.
and how much longer they need time to develop and test everything. So for me, usually it's one year to 1.5. Post COVID, it's a little longer. But yeah, so like you design something, I'm so excited. You see some of the samples and everything, and by the time it hits the market, I'm bored of it. You know what I mean? Because I've seen it for
Yeah,
2 years. But everybody on the market is excited, so you have to keep that enthusiasm about your new product that you've been working on for 2 years. And do the storytelling, do the photo, the video, and everything else that goes around launching a watch to market. But the problem is these trade fairs. Yes, it's always like, so what's new? Like, if you came back and there was nothing new, like not even a dial that was new, I mean, I feel like maybe you wouldn't come see me, or the press would not come see me. um so like, me, I have to restrain myself to not make like 36 variations, because I am a creative person. And in
sure.
fact, it's like editing down. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't overwhelm the customer. A customer doesn't actually need too many choices. If they have too many choices, they will walk away. They will not know. So like you really have to, and also for manufacturing, it's a headache if you have too many variants. But I have a lot of female watches, so I like diamonds, no diamonds, mother of pearl dial, not mother of pearl dials. So there's a lot of variants for the ladies. Also, you have like full diamonds, just a sprinkle of diamonds. Like for price point differences and everything. So like
Yeah.
all of a sudden my references like explode. And then my retailer's like, ooh, too many.
Yeah.
So all of that is like it's a juggle to entertain the press, to not overwhelm the retailer, to make sure you have the right reference on the market for the end client. So the only times that's kind of fun is I call it my showpiece. Like, for example, my skeleton watch on the
Right.
36 Navigator full diamond. That was my showpiece. I only did 3, but in the end, I got like orders for about 12. So, I was very happy with that for the fans of the brand.
Yeah.
And I will do the 2 more showpieces for Watches and Wonders. And then if people want it, then I will manufacture it. But usually it's just a showpiece for the press for you guys.
Yeah. I tried not to be that type of press outlet, and I try, and luckily I don't have like a roadmap. I maybe luckily or not luckily, but I don't really have I just carry what I think is imprinted on me. Like when I see a passionate brand or a passionate individual such as yourself, like how can I not work with you? How can I not cover your, because your passion is imprinted in your products, right? And
True.
it sticks out. So I try not to be like, oh, well, if you have some new stuff this year, like let me cover it this year, not next year. Da, 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 da.
Well, I mean, like if you were Apple, they say that
Sure.
Apple people, when they launch a product and the end consumer knows that there's a new launch, they say that it's like I don't know, so short. It's like a week, a month, or not even a day with Apple because of the power of the brand and just like the money that
Sure.
they spend on it. A brand like me, for a end consumer who is not in the industry, okay, who
Yeah.
it's 2 years for them to know that I have actually launched a new product.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
because
crazy.
I mean, I'm not on every billboard. I'm not,
Sure, sure, sure.
I don't have that power to communicate what I'm doing to all the way down to the person on the street.
Yeah.
So, and there's very few brands that actually can do that. You know what I mean? Very few brands. I recently went to Disney World because I took my youngest son there. And so one of my favorite pastimes, okay, in airports, at Disney, when there's a lot of crowds, is to sit back and just look at people's wrists. I mean, literally, I'm a hawk. I look because I want to know what people are wearing.
Sure.
So I'm looking, in Disney World, it's America, and I'm looking, and I'm like, oh my God. It was purely Apple. Okay, there was 1 or 2 other brands, but barely. And then the other was Nike, was Coca-Cola, it was Lululemon, I think, and
Yeah.
there was like 1 other. Well, Nike was the shoes. Anyway, so like when you think about brand penetration on the market, that's it. Those are the brands that are the leaders, that are the most penetrated on the market. I mean, first of all, going to Disney is not cheap. Okay, so we're talking like
Yeah.
so those are the brands that are working. That is like full penetration. 99% of Americans know those brands. You know what I mean? So imagine my independent, family-owned Swiss brand. I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Especially in, I think in jewelry too. I mean, you see brands like, I mean, Michael Kors, right? There was a huge thing from Michael Kors where like every lady that I knew, it was like you had to have a Michael Kors watch or you weren't cool. Or now you see like, more economically like Coach, right? Or, Louis, or, I hate this is
You
your
see
podcast.
those? I don't see those on.
I see
I
them
don't see
all the
those.
time.
You see those watches of those brands on
Oh,
people?
sorry. Just, in terms of luxury, segmented products. Sorry. Watches, no. Watches, yeah, it's
Yeah.
Apple. Apple all the way. You said it for sure. But when I think of like a
But
luxury
what's funny
accessories
though,
company.
okay, but what's funny is though is that the I have a 16-year-old, 18-year-old, and you know how there's this trend back to old money. You know this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right? This
Yeah, for
old
sure.
trend back to old money, like where all of a sudden you have like the Van Cleef bracelet that you're seeing it on either younger people, males, basketball players, and you're just like, oh, what? Why? Like, and so you talk to young people, and they're like, oh yeah, that's old money, mom. And I'm like, huh? Maybe because their grandmother was wearing it. Who knows how it becomes the old money thing, and that's the thing to wear. So there is a little bit that I have felt because of the watches, and I'm not talking, the ones at the top of the pyramid, okay, Rolex, Patek, and
Sure.
everything. The
Sure.
rest is this return to analog watches because of this trend towards old money and this like, quiet luxury and all that stuff. Which means, okay, you have your Apple maybe on your right side, or you wear it to run, but you still wear your analog watch on the left side, for the events. It's not just one or the other, but it's both. So anyway.
Yeah. I'm curious, and this always comes to mind, but as now a leader and you're now a CEO, of course, what do you define as success beyond, financial performance?
Um,
It's a hard one. It's always a hard one.
for company or for product?
Either. For Charriol, for product, for I'll leave that open to interpretation for you.
I mean, so I have certain markets where, how we were talking about this brand penetration, so
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
markets with L'Oreal, I have like 80 to 95% brand penetration. When you talk to any person and you say Charriol, and they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, Charriol, or I have one, or my mother had one, or I'm wearing my mother's, or I borrowed the one from my husband, or you know what I mean? Like, your name is, they know it, or it rings a bell or something like that, or they own it. For me, that is mega success. Okay. As a brand, and right now I have it for like 4 markets, which is good. Okay, for
Mm.
a company my size. But I mean, like, there's I'm looking at, other markets where I would love not even 90, just like 50, like it would be amazing. So for me, I'm working towards that brand penetration where the brand, or it rings a bell, or you own it already, or And the other success is yeah, when I mean, really, like, you spend so much time developing a product, and God forbid it flops. And trust me, we've had several flops. Dad had flops. Um, that is the most painful thing to experience. you know you design it, you approve it, you do the prototype, you spend money to make it, you send it, your client, your retailer spends money to promote it, and it does not move. Ugh, that is probably, like losing in Vegas.
Yeah.
It's that
It's
horrible feeling. It's that horrible feeling. Makes you feel alive though. But it's
it
a horrible
does.
feeling. Yeah.
It's the ultimate test of your passion and enthusiasm. Because for me, I can't compare it to the whole product development cycle, but, obviously I'm a content creator. I shoot, I edit, I distribute my own YouTube videos, and then when I mean, I literally flew to Switzerland, did a whole manufacturer tour video with one of my favorite watch brands out there, and then it got like 400 views on YouTube. I'm like, "Oh, shit,"
That's tough. It's tough. It
Yeah.
hurts. It hurts. Yeah.
I
So trust
tried.
me, like, that's probably the worst, is when
Y
you put all that effort and it doesn't work for whatever reason. It was either the wrong time, the wrong price, whatever. And Dad, sometimes it failed, but he didn't change, he kept it in there, and then it had a life. So sometimes, like, for example, like Labubu, the guy designed this like little thing. He held on to the design for 4 years. Okay. He could have trashed it. 4 years believing in your own product, and then there's success. So sometimes you just have to hold on. but yeah,
I
not
I
easy.
know I saw your little Labubus in your showcase that were wearing your jewelry.
Listen, I'm fascinated with these success stories. You know, when like when there's a product that just becomes like this trend, this revolution. I'm always everybody who makes products. That's the magic formula, and you want to know like where can I get it and how can I do it for my product. So
Sure.
we're always reading about those, looking at those, being inspired by them.
I'm curious, because everybody has challenges with distribution. I know your products are in Nordstrom's,
Hmm.
or maybe online, but
Yeah.
like what type of challenges do you feel like you guys are having, or just any brand, through distribution? Because obviously, these are luxury products. Like nobody needs a Charriol bracelet or watch or necklace, or is all so you have to capture the emotions of saying like, hey, this is
Yeah.
beautiful enough, I want to buy this,
Correct.
versus like the logical aspects of like, well, I don't want to spend X dollars on something I don't necessarily need to function, right? But I'm curious about getting your products in front of your audiences. Like, have you found successful ways that you feel like showcase more? Because you talked about having your own points of sale. I think you still maintain
We
those. I'm
do.
not.
Yeah, yeah, we do. Absolutely, on certain markets.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I was.
so yeah, my father was very, very strong in the retail, right? He opened a lot of countries. He partnered with distributors, and in the distribution, in each country, the distributor distributed the products either through his own network of boutiques, like in the Middle East, it was the distributor, he had his own boutique, or then through point of sales in department stores and things like that. So the retail network for a company our size was pretty extensive. We were in 60 different countries. At one point, we had like 75 boutiques around the world, 3,000 point of sales. That, of course, after COVID has reduced. We're about at 50 freestanding mono uh, brand boutiques, and then I don't remember how many. I think about 1,500 point of sales across 60 countries. But we're really, really top in 10 countries around the world. That's like the money makers. Um, so today, though, in America, it's a very different playing field. At first, it was retail, very, very strong retail, incredible department stores that pushed brands, supported brands, pushed trends and things like that. And then for whatever reason, over the years, they've lost their power. Um, and so partnering with them is great for your positioning and kind of your it's kind of like a stamp of approval from them. However,
Yeah.
as a partner, it is terrible. They are not a very good partner in the sense they don't really build brands anymore. They just don't. So that's been very tough. However, the retailers, the independent retailers who've also had their journey, because in like 2009 and then COVID, also, the weak ones closed. So the ones that are currently open today are they have a strong backbone. You know what I mean? Like, because they've
Yeah.
survived like tsunamis. And those ones are great to work with because usually you have the relationship, and usually they're usually family owned. So then family owned, so that you understand each other. So you've got this connection, and they're like what dad used to have. It's like you know each other, you know each other's husbands and wives, you know each other's kids, and then you build this relationship, you grow together, and hopefully you go through like those waves in the economy. um my dad, I think, had it more than me. I think second generation, we had that influx of digital, where everybody's like, we need to be on digital, which we were as well. But then it was like only native brands on digital are successful. Then you realize that all the native brands on digital also had to open retail. And then I feel like the pendulum has swung back, and we are comfortably, hopefully, living in the two worlds. You have to be online, you have to be able to sell online, but not maybe everything. um,
Sure.
you have to have retail, right? Because what are people going to do on a Saturday? You know what I mean? You can't just scroll. You know what I mean? Like you actually have to go outside. You have to eat. You have to, have an activity, and maybe it's like, go shopping or have an experience. So I really feel like the omni channel that everybody's talking about is today what you need and what you have to have.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. Something too that I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about it, but I think you're probably the best person that I know personally to talk about this. Um, but as somebody who sold luxury products myself, you yourself as well, you've gotten a taste of the entire like sales process, development, distribution, manufacturing. You've gotten the entire taste, right? But something that I feel like brands miss the mark on is letting that passion or somehow transferring that passion from manufacturer to merchant, right? So obviously getting the salespeople passionate about the products, educating them, telling the stories, doing all of that education with them, because a lot of brands, they have this mentality like, okay, well, my product's going to sell itself because it's beautiful, because it's this,
I
because
know,
it's that. And somehow a lot of these brands fail to understand that just because you put it in the showcase, it's not going to sell. I mean, everybody should know that. But then, how do you get the people who are the forward facing sales professionals for the brand? How do you get them to be passionate about your product?
Ugh.
Curious if you could talk about that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that is a great question, and I think it's something that we don't talk about enough because you're so right. Like every time I travel and I go to a Charriol boutique and I talk to all the sales ladies who are in the boutique already, and so they
Sure.
are convinced already because they're there, right? And
Sure.
I'm
Sure.
always like, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are the face of the brand. The client sees you the first. The words that come out of your mouth are the ones that are going to help sell the product, tell the story. Like you are vital, vital, vital to the success of this brand and to the success of the product selling. So we do take care of them. Now I think there's also been a change, in the sense that I think there's less and less young people who want to stand hours and hours and hours in the store. It's a
Yeah,
very hard job.
for
And
sure.
so there's a lot of turnover versus
Mm,
when dad started, it was your career. You know what I mean?
yeah.
These women like were with, in a store or in a brand, and they lived it, breathed it, and they stayed. They were there. They saw the evolution. They had the sales training and they kept it. You know what I mean? Like and it piled on and they had more and more knowledge. Like today, I mean, the turnover is fast.
Yeah.
The younger people don't really want that job. So you if you get like an older person, then usually they're great. But I mean, again, I'm generalizing. But
Sure, sure.
even as a salesperson, like a salesperson on the road, like the new generation is like, oh, that's too much work. How many hours in a car and how much do I get? And like,
Yeah.
and I get rejection, like, no, thank you, So
Yeah.
all those jobs, they're in peril a little bit, to tell you the truth, to have the good ones, again, generalizing.
Sure, of course.
But
Yeah.
sales training, very, very important. A lot of sales training, very, very important. In initiatives, incentives, which we do a lot of incentives, storytelling, trying to get them to connect to the brand. To tell you the truth, the minute I have a brand manager in a country that loves the brand, for whatever reason, either he met my dad, he came to visit Geneva, he went to the factory, whatever the reason was, he was gifted the product and he loved it. Once I have one that has been like turned on to Charriol and converted to a Charriol lover, the sales go up automatically. It's amazing how how important it is that that salesperson believes in your product, believes what he's saying. It changes the whole game. The product, the end consumer will be like, yeah, I trust this retailer, I trust this salesperson, I'm going to buy the product, especially if they don't know anything. Anyway,
Sure.
so just to wrap it up, I mean, I really strongly believe that the sales staff is like, without them, we wouldn't exist. They're so important.
Yeah. It also happens, you have brands that are pushing and pulling, so like especially like here in the States, it's really hard for you to have like a footing without having a multi-brand
Yes.
like retailer,
Yeah.
so like having your own brick and mortar is even more challenging than ever. And then most people don't really talk about this either, but as somebody who's been in that environment and been in that role, I'm struggled because like, oh, I love Coralie, like she's amazing, her product's amazing, but then like I have somebody who comes in, like like they stoke my fire a little differently, so you also see that nobody really talks about. So like it's a weird place to be, I will
Trust
say.
me, all the salesperson, they have their likes and dislikes of every brand.
Yeah, of course. And you find yourself, I noticed that like I literally found myself showing the same watches over and over because I loved them, and I was like please just buy this, because if you don't buy this, I kind of want to buy, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, but
anyways,
that's what you have to do. You have to find
yeah.
believers. You know what I mean? You have to find believers that either
Mm,
has connected with your brand, connected with the meaning of your brand, uh, see the value in your product, see the quality, connect to the story. It's not only like, you know, I'm Coralie Charriol. I made a watch. The brand's 40 years old. It's made with cable. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, you need to
yeah,
talk to your client with the why. Why should you buy this watch? You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I'm trying to tell the story, but again, it's hard to get your message across. It's like, it's about, being independent woman. You can decide for yourself. You're not going to break the bank, but you're going to have great style. It's going to be a Swiss made product. It's going to go with all your outfits, and you're going to, I don't know, feel confident wearing it. So
yeah.
for me, those are the why, and you need to also share the why.
Yeah. We cannot have a podcast with you without talking about creativity. So we're gonna jump into some of the creativity here. You just talked about storytelling, and that you play into the design of storytelling into every Charriol piece. Like, I'm assuming, do you start with the product or do you start with the story when you're literally launching a new idea?
It depends. Like for example, about like the surf watch is a perfect example, right? So the surf watch is um it today young people like stories that are authentic, right? I mean, um they want the real story. They want the curtain to be pulled back. They want to see what's happening behind, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
for me, like dad raced cars. He put the details of his cars on watches, like that one back there, that's the
Yeah.
Diablo. I love that watch. Anyway, so, and that was authentic. I mean, he was a real race car driver, and infused it with his real passion. Like, so for me, I kept thinking, okay, I raced a bit with dad, but that's not what I lived and breathed. I learned to surf late in life. I was 30 years old, and I became obsessed, and I was like, this is the best sport in the world. How do I infuse it into something that I'm doing every day, which is the watches? So I don't dive, right? But the watch that you can take underwater is a diver's watch. So the surf watch it's actually the one I'm wearing, but this is the glammed up version. This is the one with all the
Oh, yeah.
diamonds and
Yeah, you're
cable.
wearing that one
This,
in
yeah,
Vegas. I love that,
and then
yeah.
this is the back case there. But it's an automatic diver's watch, built like a diver's watch, but you can go surfing with it. And for me, that was kind of like my storytelling. So I built this surf squad with three people that I love. Violeta Sanchez, she's Spanish, short border. Um, Garrett McNamara, who discovered Nazare, he's my male ambassador for the male surf watch. And Laura Crane, she's British. She also surfed Nazare, the first British woman to surf Nazare. Anyway, them three, and then me, and then I went around the world and I launched the watch, and I met up with surfers and we did events, um, you know and I got to surf in all these amazing places. But I mean, like, that was the link between an authentic passion and the product, and then the storytelling together. So for me, I was I love that watch. I wear it, like I said, like glammed up or more
Yeah.
sporty, and that's also the two facets of my life. So I kind of, a woman is not just one facet. She's multifaceted. She can be, sporty and a career woman and a mother and a passionate surfer. So all of that kind of infused into that story. But like, for example, if you go back and you look at the Saint Tropez, the watch I had talked about earlier, the ladies'
Yeah.
watch with a chain on the side. Um, this also has a story, but it was it was my father's in 1983. He launched this watch. It's one of the oldest watches in the collection, and it's the one who survived the test of time. It's had many, many variations. But what's amazing is the name of this watch. My father in the 80s, he named all his products. I still do it as well, but he trademarked. Oh my God, every watch is trademarked with the name. So like Super Sports, Celtic, Actor, Saint Tropez, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And he used the name of the village, which is this tiny little village in the south of France near Marseille, okay, where he was born. And he went as a kid. He took us as kids. I take my children. Every summer we go, and it's the most iconic little fun village, but now it's like international, and they've got the best yachts and lunches and parties and things like that. Like, anyway, and for him, this watch was embodied that, like, it's feminine, it's fun, it's summer, it's the French joie de vivre, it's sexy. And so for him, that was the watch. And I always try to bring the storytelling back to that place because it embodies this watch. So yeah, it's not like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
Here, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really think, okay, story first. It's too forced. It's like story first and then,
Yeah.
product. No, or product first and then story. No, it doesn't work like that. I don't know why. It's kind of like an evolution. It's like, what does Charriol stand for? It stands for being bold. Okay, what's bold? Like, racing cars, surfing. Okay. Oh, and then, but it's feminine, it's chic, and also like you can wear it with your suits, Okay, what's that? Like it's in those moments that we kind of find inspiration.
It
Yeah.
gives me a good thought because, my next question was going to be, like more about the creative process, how it's guided. You don't strike me as the person that sits there and kind of like plugs away at data and like starts to build products based on data. It just seems like it's more instinctual, like DNA, like coded, is in your blood to like just make amazing products. Like,
Yeah.
so that was my correct question, but I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
you've
like,
already answered
I
it.
don't know if you've ever seen our catalog. I mean, like, our catalog is like,
I don't think so.
I mean, and this is like me trying to edit myself, but there's all the watches. So, yeah, I mean, if I had my way, I would have a new watch. I have like two new watch lines, but I haven't launched them. Like, the market can't take it right now, so those are on hold. I have a little bit more fun in the jewelry section. There's a little
Sure.
bit more leeway there, so that's a lot of fun. And then there I go. I have the codes of Charriol, but I go with the trends. Chains, big chains, small chains, pendants, big hoops, small hoops. But I always try to bring it back to like the charm that looks the most Charriol, or something that's linked to the past. Because we have 40 years. Now,
Yeah.
so that's an advantage. Yeah.
Is there a design or collection that, you've worked on that you actually were surprised at the response after you released it? You're like, "Oh, I thought this would be relatively successful, but this thing is just freaking soaring."
More on the jewelry, like
Okay.
because I get the responses on the jewelry. Yeah, sometimes the simplest thing, and you're like, okay, fine, we'll do it, and then it's like, boom, it sells, and you're just like, oh, okay, or the thing. Usually, I have learned over the years is that if it is hard, if it's full of problems and it's taking forever, I put it away now. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just not meant to be. There's other stuff,
It's
and so I don't push. I used to always push it through. It's gonna be fine. Let's just get to the bottom of it, No, like, Why? There's so much already. And so like if it's the design and then the prototype is super easy, you like just barely like modify it, boom, and then you sell it, like, okay,
Yeah.
so I listen a little bit more to that, not be so adamant about like pushing something through. Doesn't work for everyone. Obviously, there's some things that you do have to push through, but overall, I feel it's kind of like the universe, like just
Yeah.
go with it, because if not, there's enough problems that will obstacles that will come in your way. So yeah.
Some
um,
something that as I was doing my research yesterday, I'm gonna bring up one question because it's not the most sexy topic, but
oh,
you have pushed and made sustainability like a huge thing for you, so how does your commitment to sustainability like show up in your watches and jewelry?
it's been very hard to do in the watches and jewelry, because believe it or not, anything that is recycled, like recycled steel, is more expensive than um, new steel, which is not fair, right?
Yeah.
And all of those things. So every time I tried to do the recycle bit, it ended up being too expensive. So on the products, hard products, I haven't really been able to be as tight. However, on my packaging, on my displays, on things like that, and how I ship to my uh, distributors or retailers, I have improved my packaging, because there's a lot of plastic that goes around
Yeah, it's
products.
sad. Yeah.
Yes. And so the the box, the bag, the inner box, all of that is plastic free. So it's paper and you can burn it.
Yeah.
Um, which was a little bit dicey, because, you know, you go from uber luxury because it's like shiny because it has this plastic film on it,
Yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah, yeah.
to not shiny, and you're just like, ooh, is it going to look like paper craft, like, or arts and craft paper? And I was like, that's not really my brand, So like, but then with the years, the people in the paper world, are getting better and better, because also other brands are demanding it, or other products are demanding it, which I'm so glad about. So that's been improving. I have to show you my box. And also, like, I used to tear the paper, because when it's plastified, there's less tear, right? And then now, if it's just paper, it tears quite easily. So now we have a technique where you dye the paper all the way through. So even if it tears, there's no white showing, because that was a big problem. Anyway,
Interesting.
so we've definitely evolved in all the packaging of the product going to the end consumer, and then um, still improving the shipping between um, warehouse and distributor or
Yeah,
retailer. And
yeah.
then the end consumer, for example, my e-box, I'm very proud of my e-box. You should have told me, because I could have shown you a photo. But my e-box, there is no filler at all. There's no chips, there's no bubble paper, there's none of that. It is created where there's two ribbons that attach the watch box or the jewelry box, and locks it in place, and then that's closed. And then on the inside it's all Charriol, but on the outside it's like a normal box. You put the label and it goes like that, because I could not stand receiving bubble or chips or any filler. It's disgusting. I find it gross. Anyway, so there's this incredible company here in Switzerland, and I work with them. So that's that. But on the sustainability, the reason why it affected me so much is because Dennis and I, my husband and I, created this non-for-profit called React to Film. React to Film promotes issue-based documentaries, and we build educational curriculum around these documentaries to help provoke civic engagement and social responsibility. And we used to do screenings, and we did screenings in high schools and colleges, and I saw so many documentaries about the food industry, the industrial food
Yeah,
industry, excuse me, and then also all about the oceans um, and plastic. And then that was like about 10 years we did that. And there was this one filmmaker who came to me, and he needed funding, and I raised the capital for him, and it was called The Story of Plastic. So I'm actually an executive producer of this documentary called The Story of Plastic. It's fascinating. You should see it. And that is why I was like, okay, I can't just, help this movie be made and not do something in my company. And that is why, the initiative of making everything paper free in my packaging was.
Thank you for that, because you're trying to save the world for me and my children, your children, your children's children.
Listen, one step at a time, and we all need to do it.
Sure.
We all need to do it. Yeah. So and I tell my son a lot about, like, plastic is not all bad. I mean, there's a lot of things that are made of plastic. It's the single-use plastic that is the worst. The single-use plastic, and that's what I tell him, and he then tells it back to me because I sometimes forget.
So our next little segment here, this is probably going to be the hardest one for you. So I know you're already in the hot seat, so sorry to turn up the temperature a little bit, but we might have the most fun here, right? So what would you say has been your proudest moment of being CEO of Charriol?
Ooh, proudest moment. I think proudest moment is being accepted into Watches and Wonders, being asked to come in and being accepted to be part of that amazing fair and to be among the greats. Yeah, I think that was like, after all the headache and stress of COVID, those 2 miserable, almost 3 miserable years, and to come out of it and get to that fair, I was like, okay, this is where I belong. This is what I've been working for. This is where I belong. And then you're always kind of intimidated. I mean, they have so much money, right? But then I go there and I'm like, no, I'm different than everybody else. I'm even better than some, you know what I mean? Like, because I put all the effort into the way we present, into our color, our messaging, all of that. And I find a lot of brands do spend a lot of time on just the product, which is, yes, like 90% of the time. But I find all the other stuff is as important as well. You know what I mean? In the sense of, like, I don't know, the global package, like sometimes the box that it comes in, and that it's environmental friendly, the color, the message, the little extra thing that you get, all of that. Like, my father always said there's like those brands where, you come home. He used to come home with gifts to my mother, and he'd be like, you'd come home with the orange bag, and she didn't even have to look what was in it. It was Hermes, so you were just like, you were in a good spot. Like, he always felt like that was very important, like, and in the Middle East, like, our packaging, our product, our brand is a very appreciated brand as gifting, and they buy a lot of Charriol to gift. So, like, they feel very comment t'appelles ça, comfortable, and what's the word I'm looking for? Like, confident and assured that they are giving the right gift. You know what I mean? That people are not going to be like, oh my God, what did they buy me? Oh no, they bought me a Charriol. You know what I mean? Like, just by seeing the bag and the color, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, that's a good brand. He spent X on me. Okay, that's good. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, people think like that, So, like, for me, that moment of being at Watches and Wonders, being in my special booth that looks like a jewel box, having done all the restructuring of the company, the redesign of the, watches, of the jewelry, the editing, for me, that was probably, in the last 6 years, my best moment.
If you could describe the Charriol, like, identity in 3 words, what would you say? What would they be?
Independent, bold, passionate.
Okay, perfect. Let's talk about something that maybe you have thought of, but legacy. Obviously your children, right? I as I was doing research, obviously we follow each other on Instagram, and I've seen you post pictures with your family and things like that. And then as I was doing research, like, on your website, it seems like, I mean, your daughter, right? Am I mistaken that she seems like
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
like
yeah. Oh
pretty
yeah.
active in the
Oh yeah.
brand? So what do you think the Charriol legacy is gonna be,
I mean, like
after your
every
generation?
family brand, you bring your homework home. I mean, like I can't, sadly, I can't stop. I don't, I try to
Yeah,
leave it in the office, but everything comes home. She sees what I'm doing. She sees what I'm wearing when the kids have like days off, but I'm working. They come in, they work in the office in the conference room. They're in the drawers. They help me with the Christmas sales and things like that. So they're very much involved as I was with my father. Like my first job was like doing the packaging of the products in the warehouse. Like so it's what I live and breathe. And so she shares it with me. She's 16. I mean, very, very young. She doesn't know
yeah,
what she's going to do. But I also, for me, the most important is to be a role model for her as a
sure.
woman, as a career, who has a family and kids. You can do it. It's messy, there's no balance. It's, you're just trying to create harmony between work and family. Like it's not easy, but you can do it. And yeah, to be a role model for her is very, very important. I don't really think about the legacy right away. My father was funny because he didn't really think about the legacy. He was one of those guys that thought he was never going to die. And he built it. He always said, like, I'm very happy that you're working with me. He was very proud of me, but it was his company and he built it for him, and he was going to do whatever he wanted for himself. Um, so for me, I mean, if it's family owned, it's family owned. Yes. If it has the opportunity to become a mega brand, I want it to survive. I want it to be one of those mega brands, but who knows? Only the future can tell. So it's too far to say legacy at this moment in time.
If
But yes, I do use my family members. Well, it's also the side of like being authentic. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a family brand. It's a family
yeah.
brand. Do you think what do you if your father could see, like, the direction that you've taken the company today, like, what do you think he'd be most proud of?
Oh, I really believe he would be thrilled. He would be thrilled. I mean, there were some like people that we worked with that he couldn't fire. Like he was very bad at firing anyone. If they were loyal to him, he kept them forever. So, um, you know, I did more of a cleanup on that. So, um, um, yeah, I think he would be proud. To tell you the truth, like dad was a marketing genius. He was a creative. He was a passionate man. He had sometimes used to tell me, he was like, if I could start over and sell furniture, I would do it. I just loved. I think he loved the start. The excitement of the start. Um, he was an entrepreneur, like in his heart. For me, I almost have the hardest job. I'm not going from 0 to 100. He did that. Trying to stay at 100 and continue and then maybe go up. I'm almost for me, and the world has changed, you know,
Yeah,
so, this next chapter, this, 2.0 is a very different story. And I think he'd be very proud. Yeah.
no doubt, no doubt. Um, what do you imagine the next generation of Charriol customers to look like, and how will you connect with them?
I think, like, for example, again, something that dad was doing is this unisex bangle, the one you're wearing. The one, yeah, those end caps are maybe a little bit more masculine, but there were some that were more neutral, which was crazy in the 90s to have a bangle that was like already neutral before, all this gender neutral trends came along and all that stuff, which I think is great. But for me,
Yeah.
like, we almost have a little leg up with the jewelry to talk to these next generation, because there's a lot of jewelry. How are people going to wear jewelry? Are they going to share jewelry? Is it going to be more techie jewelry or not? I mean, those are all kind of questions that that we're all discussing now. You've got the Aura ring. Oh my God, the Aura ring. Um, I was like, oh, I want to do a collaboration with Aura. I pitched a deck to do like cable around the Aura.
Oh,
Genius, right? I love that. Um, so so all of that for me, it's step by step, month by month with all the trends. I mean, I'm plugged in, I am following, I am aware, I am traveling, I am shopping, like I am, and then I am adapting what I feel, and trying to collaborate with the like Aura or another like water bottle that cleans your water. I don't know, like, how can
yeah,
Charriol fit into these next lifestyle trends or health trends or whatever, For me, all of that is very important, but it's not on all products, maybe it's not everywhere, but it's literally like step by step, I keep moving forward. It's like a chain reaction, just keep moving forward. Um, Looking right out, like, of course, TikTok. Am I on TikTok? Can my brand be on TikTok? Am I to this? Am I to that? We were trying to find content for TikTok, which is very hard for a luxury,
yeah.
business. So like I asked my kids, they're like, Mom, I can't help you there. I'm like, okay, like, so not easy, not easy. So you've got TikTok, you've got Snap, you've got all those. Where are they going to shop? How are they going to shop? You know, how does a trend happen? I mean, like my son's 11. He knows at 11 that it's baggy jeans this year. Okay. How? I don't know. It just happened. Mom, I need baggy jeans. That was the first outfit he wore today to school. And then you're like, Axel, how did you find out it was baggy jeans? Oh, this, that, who knows? It's like, that's all the magic sauce that we're all looking for. How do you talk to these next generations? All I can tell you is that I'm on every single device so that I'm not left behind. I'm
Yeah.
on Snap, I'm on TikTok, because what I fear is that whatever comes after TikTok, if you don't know TikTok or you don't know Snap, whatever comes after, you will be out of the game. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So you just stay in by like testing it, being it, doing it from time to time, so you don't feel you get lost or like left behind.
yeah.
To me, those are like the most important things. Um, billboards are still important.
Yeah.
Magazines tough, but online magazines still important. TV shows very important. Talk show hosts like you, like influencers, YouTubers. I mean, all of those. It's just a little bit. What's fun is that it's just a little bit wider. I like all the sports person, like I like the women
Sure,
who
sure,
are
sure.
doing things. So, but they're also not only surfing, they're also fashionistas, or, they travel, or, maybe they have another passion. So I find like all of those are very, very interesting to collaborate with, and hopefully they become friends of the brand, and we grow like that. But
I am.
collaboration
I'm a
is
friend of the
something
brand.
I have to work on. Yeah. But it's true. Collaboration is something I want to work on more.
Yeah. Curious about, obviously you're designing products, right? So there has to be some emotional connections that happen. When somebody puts on one of your products, what are the feelings that you're trying to like tap into or harness or, bring to life?
Definitely confidence for me, because there's something crazy about like the cable, that we create with. So the cable is already a very kind of strong material. It's tough,
Oh yeah.
it's steel, but then we've softened it, so for me it's kind of like the duality of something that's like tough, like backbone, but then soft heart, open, flexible, accepting. For me, that's what I think about it.
No, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I need to work on my stack because I need to work on my stack. But
Yeah, you need to work on
um
this. Sorry,
uh
yeah, I've got three here, and these are like the diamond and gold versions, but yeah, you
no,
see.
you've got the
Yeah.
no, you've got
But I
the
mean,
you've
like,
got the
it's
epic stack.
crazy how dad chose like stainless steel, a very alternative material to like, what people use: gold, silver, titanium, brass, etc., etc. by steel, So steel, like you've got this durability, this kind of strength. But the way we've created it and woven it and twisted and baked it and all that stuff, it's actually flexible. It's actually flexible, you know what I mean? And it's has this satin finish. So it's kind of like the duality of the product, you're confident, you're strong, but you're flexible, open heart, and accepting. For me, like those, that's what I feel. And no, for me, the designing products is always the most exciting. For me, I used to say, and I still say it today, there are 2 days in the life of a product that I love most. Okay. The first day is when you have the initial light bulb idea. You're just like, oh my God, I got an idea. This is it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It's going to be amazing. This, that, this is going to go here. That's going to go there. So that day for me, it's like the brainstorming day. I'm pumped. I love it. Don't talk to me about finance. Don't talk to me about anything else. Okay. Creative days, no one comes into my office and I'm with my team. And the second day of the product is when a total stranger that I don't know is wearing the product on the bus, on the street, in the airport, in the seat next to me on the plane, and then I'm like, she bought my product.
That's like
And
a
for
full
me, I'm like,
circle
oh my
moment.
God, something I did, somebody went ahead and bought and spent their hard-earned money on. You know what I mean? And I'm like, wow, you know? And
Magical.
usually I always start by saying, I really like your watch, and then because I want to see first, like if she's going to be like, oh, oh, thank you, I bought it here, or I got it for this, and then as I asked a few questions, I was like, oh, well, I designed that, and they'd be like, excuse me, what? Like they're like, they can't
Yeah,
believe you did, you what you did. I was like, yes, it's my brand and I designed that product and I'm very happy you wore it and thank you so much, so.
that's magical. I can only
Mm.
imagine the feeling. I feel like that when people like, because podcast stats are very there's not a lot of visibility in podcasts. Like I can go see
No,
like
yeah,
who's downloading and where they're downloading from and what their devices are listening from. But you don't get much beyond that. So when somebody's like, "Oh, dude, I listened to your podcast," and I'm like, "Oh, cool. Like, appreciate
yeah,
that."
yeah.
I can't imagine somebody wearing my products, but no, funny, because when we launched Lonely Wrist, we went and like I wanted to promote it, so I got some of those little like rubber bands with the logo printed on them.
Mhm.
And then like as my friends are wearing them, and then like I'll see like a year later, like my friends, like in their Instagram posts, they're still freaking wearing those little bands I gave them like a year and a half, if not 2 years ago. And I'm like,
Well, they feel
all right,
connected to you. That's great.
yeah, that's the
Well, good.
only sense of experience that I can relate to probably your feeling there.
But that's like a shared experience, I think
It
that's,
is.
yeah.
So final question, and then I will let you. I'm sure you want to go home. You're ready to leave the office for the day. What is next for Charriol? If you can give us a little taste, if not, then I understand.
What is next? I am working on oh, sorry, my computer I just have to make sure it doesn't. I am working on the next evolution of the Charriol boutique. It's going to be very bold. So I'm very excited about that. Just giving it a different look, a different feel, different colors, different materials. And what's been fun is that the Charriol boutique since 1991, which was Dad's first boutique. No, 89 was his first boutique. It's evolved 5 times. This would be the 6th version. So that's been very, very exciting. Point of sale and boutique, kind of inspired from the booth that you've seen at Watches and Wonders.
Yeah.
So for me, that's very exciting. Then continuing, of course, developing different watches and jewelry. Working with my licensee for the eyewear, the perfume. We just redesigned all the bottles of perfume, which I find scent very and
Amazing.
the perfume industry very, very interesting. And then I had a couple of dreams, of the Charriol Cafe, the Charriol Bar, which I've talked to different distributors or partners in different markets where we're strong. Like I said, when we have very strong penetration. I wanted a more permanent thing, but we're now going to try to do a kind of a pop-up, like a pop-up bar or pop-up cafe. Of course, I've been talking about this for quite some time, and then all of a sudden you've got like Louis Vuitton doing a restaurant, and then like somebody else, Fendi, doing something else, and I was like, you see, guys, it's happening. We can do it too.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of experience, but you can only do it with brands that have a lot of personality and codes, because it's got to have like the color and the C, we have like the C logo, we have the color, we have the slogan, we have the cable. So there's a lot of elements that can go into this kind of experience. But I feel like food and beverage is where a lot of people are spending a lot of their time and their money. Like there's been a little bit of a dip in buying luxury products, okay, across the board.
For sure.
But hotels and restaurants and the experience of a meal with a friend, a date, or whatever, people are enjoying that. They want that, So then that's why the brands are kind of like, creeping into this. So I still kind of want to be unique. I mean, I was even thinking about, those kind of fun food trucks where you sold, you open up and all the watches there, but it's not, it's not food, it's watches. Or, the bangle bar where, you open up and it's not a bar, but it's all the bangles, So I was kind of trying to really kind of push on the experience of the product, the brand, and how and where you purchase. So that's kind of where I've been thinking and what I've been thinking about. Other than that, continuing to surf, continuing to get friends of the brand, and looking for collaborations.
Amazing. Yeah, well, I think that I'm always here for you if you need anything from me. Thank you so much for spending. I mean, this is an hour and a half.
I don't know who's going to listen to this.
Everybody's going to listen. I assure you. We have a really high retention rate on our podcast of people that people continue to listen. People binge, and then we have people because the commutes are really long here in the States.
Oh, they are.
So it's like a 35 or 40 minute, the average commute to work for most people. And then on the way back, right? So we've got them listening to one half of your story on the way in and then listening to the other half on the way back.
Well, thank you to all your listeners if they get to the very end of this.
Yeah. And everybody, I would encourage you to please go spend some time on her website to see the brand. I am a huge believer. If I wasn't, then she wouldn't be sitting in front of me digitally. Like I wouldn't have this conversation. I really think the passion comes through in her products. I mean, she's got an epic, amazing product. It didn't take me long for me to realize that. And yeah, it's a really great story, and there's really great people behind the brand, and that's what attracted me the most to you. And thank you for spending so much time with me and being not only that, but
thank you, Blake, for also all those interesting questions and putting me on your podcast. I'm very honored.
Yeah, I'm honored to have you here. This has been a long time in the making. I know how busy you are, but I knew very quickly I had to have you on, and I'm very humbled that you decided to come spend some more time with me. So
thank you. And I hope that your wrist is not too lonely anymore.
No, so that's funny because you saw those little bands that I had.
Yeah,
that's right. And you
replaced I saw a very lonely wrist. That is what I saw. A very lonely wrist. And I'm
it's not lonely.
I can Charriolize that wrist.
Well, I told you that I would wear it. And I was telling Jillian too, like one day, I woke up and I lost my bangle. And I was like,
Oh
oh
no.
shit, like freaking out. I was like, and then I was like asking my wife, I was like, well, babe, where's the, cause I have like a little valet
Yeah.
tray that I put like my
Yeah.
watch, my ring, like my
Yeah.
bracelet on. And she had somehow like relocated it and cleaning. And then like I opened a dresser drawer. I'm like, oh, thank God, like, cause I wear it every single
I
day.
thought maybe she had, stolen it and worn it herself.
My wife is not a big show. She's really into earrings. So she's really into earrings and really into necklaces. But she doesn't like wearing stuff on her wrist. So
Well, we make necklaces and
I
earrings.
I know. I was thinking, I was like,
A
I need
little
to show
fun
her.
there.
Yeah, I know. I need her to, maybe an anniversary gift at some point.
Well, I
Good
look forward to
strategy.
seeing you. I don't know when you're coming our way, but I will probably be in Vegas, I hope. I love Vegas. I've been going since I think the youngest I went, I was like 15 years old. So I know Vegas quite well.
Yeah. Next time you're here, and hopefully you don't have as much work obligations as you did this last time. We can, spend some time together.
Yeah, take me off the strip, right? Get me
Yeah.
into the city that sadly I don't know very well. Yeah,
I'll take you to all the local spots.
that would be fun. That would
We
be
will.
fun.
I know some good places. I could take you to the arts district. I think you'd fit in there. It's all like secondhand like products and
Oh yeah,
like really nice restaurants and like breweries and like little like wine bars and like it's and it's all graffitied up, like the beautiful it's right in the shadow of the city. It's freaking cool.
fun.
So I'll take you there next time.
All right, cool.
Thank you so much, everybody. We are going to link Charriol in the description here. Please go check them out. Like I said, this is a very special brand. You can clearly tell Coralie's story is very epic. Thank you so much for making it this far, and we will see you on the next episode.
Au revoir, merci.